all the money we raise here goes right to the ISRA. So be generous, because we need a lot of money to fight the bums that want to hurt us with our Second Amendment. So make sure that you go over to the guns over there. There's a raffle for a Henry gun. Everybody needs to chip in a little bit more than you already did. We really appreciate it. We're going to have Gretchen come up here. This is Gretchen Rich. She's on the county board, and she was going around and getting all the elected officials' names. Anybody in our district, she's up for election, so remember her name, Gretchen Fritz.
Thank you, Steve. So we're going to start with a prayer, so pray with me. We thank you, Lord, for your many blessings to us. Chief among them is the blessing of living in a free country, in which our God-given rights, including the right to self-defense, are canonized and preserved by a Bill of Rights. Bless this food we are about to receive, and the hands that prepared it. May our words and actions bring you glory. And all the people said, Amen. Join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we have Raquel Mitchell. She's going to sing the anthem for us.
Is it okay? Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous night, o'er the ramparts we watched, was so gallantly streaming, and rocket red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Now we got a lot of elected officials here, and elected officials are here, and they need support for elections. So you got to remember their names. It's real important. These people support guns. So we have Jim Moses. He's the Speaker of the County Board. He's sitting over there. He's running against the Socialists. His partner, Steve Lobo. Jim needs to win. Don Moran. He's right over here. He's not up. But you know what? Don's did a great job supporting Second Amendment issues on the county board. And if he decides to run again, you got to remember to vote for him. Then you got myself. I'm Steve Ballage. I'm running with Mike Frizzalone, who I'll probably say again because that's my partner on the county board. He's kind of the watchdog for me, making sure I don't screw up. Oh, Mike's next. Mike Frizzalone. He can stand up. There's Mike. state ballots. We're running against the socialists. You're going to kind of hear a, kind of similar thing. Everyone seems to have a socialist. Gretchen Fritz. She's running for the county board, and she's running against the socialists. Gloria Dozier is not running yet, but she doesn't have a socialist either running against her. Debbie Militello, yes, a socialist. There's Debbie. You got to remember Debbie. And Margot McDermott. Everybody knows Margot. Did you know she hates women? According to her socialist opponent, she hates women. Her opponent is not only a socialist, but he's a liar. Then we got Raquel Mitchell. She's a Wheatland Township trustee, and she's a great singer. Now we have Nick Stella. Nick just took on Foster in an argument about guns. To make Foster look like an idiot. Thank you, Nick. Jim Dodge had a lead, and he's right there. He's running for treasurer, and he is a socialist too. And Foster goes without saying is a socialist. He's a progressive, no-good socialist, and it's got to go. Lori McPhillips, right there, she's running for clerk. She's honest. She has integrity. She can be bonded. She can take oath of office. There are things I can't say about her socialist opponent. And I wouldn't, believe me. I'm just appalled. But anyway, we all got to remember to vote for Lori, because if the other side, the socialists, can't control that clerk's office, just think of the corruption that can go down when they run elections. So you got to make sure we get all of our friends out to vote. If we get our friends out, we win. Then you got Annette Parker. Oh my God, she got two socialists. Then we got Rick Leah. I can't say that word right, my tongue don't work. But now you have the guy that he has not proclaimed himself as a socialist, but I think he is. Am I right? Am I right? Well, there's progressives and then there's progressive socialists. And, then there's just plain socialists. They all stink. And then we have Alicia Bedford. Alicia, you're running as a progressive. I don't think she's a socialist. Tell me I'm wrong. She's both, right? Oh my God. You know what? Folks, we got to get out and get rid of the socialists. America is a capitalist society. And if we don't get out and vote, get our friends to vote, people in this room should get at least 10 people to the polls and vote Republican. Because there are no socialist Republicans. Democrats want to raise your taxes and Republicans don't. And if there were socialists in the room, they'd say, oh, it's wonderful because they want to raise your taxes. And Republicans believe in due process, and Democrats don't. So just remember that when you go to the polls. Now I'm going to introduce Doug Mayhall. He's the new president of the Illinois State Rifle Association. He started the committee too. I want to thank everybody coming here and supporting the ISRA. And what I'm talking about in a minute is the ISRA. It was formed in 1903. It was started as to help the military learn how to shoot. And it has been a training, educational, and Second Amendment right for the last 115 years. And for the last 11 years of that, Don Moran has been the president until I became president a few months ago. And through Don's leadership, we have filed many lawsuits and won many lawsuits. Probably the two most historic ones were Otis and McDonald versus Chicago
And that went all the way to the Supreme Court, and we won that, I think, June 29th of 2010. And what that case was about was basically saying that a person has the right to carry a gun for personal protection. And Chicago had different views, but we won on that and we prevailed. And ultimately, that led us to getting our concealed carry. We were the last state in the union that did not have concealed carry. When we got this, it allowed to. So the next step was going after concealed carry. It took us another 3 years, but we got that on July 9th, I believe, of 2013. So finally, we have concealed carry. And Don's leadership and foresight has been a huge factor in getting us there. And thank you, Don. And what we're going to do to honor Don is we have a NRA National Match Rifle. They built 5,000 of them, and between 1932, 1922, and 1932, his rifle was built on the 14th of June in 23. And we had renowned gunsmith Dan Stone. He completely refurbished it. We have it documented, and he's a renowned gunsmith and rebuilt it, and we're going to present this to Don tonight. Where is it? We'll get our FFL to do it. We'll make it all legal. Suspenseful bill.
Thank you very much. It's 29 years on the board of directors, 11 years as president. It was my deepest honor. Doug's been doing a great job. I have another one of these. It's unfired. I bought a receiver in white from DCM at the time, and we bought a brand new barrel, brand new trigger, brand new bolt, everything on commercial roll to get buried. I've seen many of these given out to the top shooters at the national matches, and I appreciate it very much.
Thank you so much. Rhonda, would you please stand up? Rhonda Zell was involved in two of them, the Zell 1 and the Zell 2. And basically, it was lawsuits that we have so far prevailed on, and it is allowing gun shops to be built in Chicago. So, thank you very much for your help.
And when I was announcing people, I forgot about the Lockport Township Republicans, Pete Delaney, helps out a real lot, and Ed Ronkowski. Ed Ronkowski helps everybody with all kinds of things. And also, and it should be really, nice lady's gonna get mad at me, Julie Berkowitz. Oh my God, she's running for county board in Wheatland area. So if you're from there, you gotta vote for her. She's a conservative and pro-gun like you wouldn't believe. She is running against the socialists, everybody. And the progressive, I'm all going to stand. And she's left-handed. See, we're gearing up for that guy to speak. But right now, we got Mr. David Lombardo. Dave is co-host on Target Radio with Gretchen Fritz. He's a journalist and regular contributor to the Illinois Shooter. He's president of the Aurora Sportsman's Club. He's a member of the ISRA Board of Directors. He owns Safer USA Shooting School and works as an expert witness in firearms-related litigation. And he is not a socialist.
Yes. Well, it's an honor to share this event with Dan Proft. We've talked about getting Ollie North, but Ollie North wanted, $60,000 at the time. And that didn't work. And then we had somebody who would do it for $25,000. It was getting closer. So I told Doug I'd do it for $1,000. I thought that was fair. Yeah. And here I am. I did. And he gave me a coupon book. I paid back $100 a month. That's checks in the mail. Yeah. And a couple of months ago at the cigar thing, I said if Amy ever can't make it, I'd fill in. And you got John Cass. John Cass is a contributor in the Chicago Tribune. He has got a voice for silent movies. I actually had a blonde wig I was going to wear to show you how dedicated I am. And then I found out Rich Vaughn is in the audience, and he runs, he's the publisher for the Illinois Shooter, and I could just picture me on the cover of the Illinois Shooter wearing a blonde wig. So that was a chilling effect for sure. Yeah. I want to thank Steve for that interesting introduction. When I was at Bowling Green State University, they used to introduce me as a Buckeye, which offended me because I'm a Illini. And it also offended me because I had no idea what the hell a Buckeye was. And I went and looked it up finally, and a Buckeye is a small, round, fatty, hairless nut of no commercial value. So it probably does. Speaking of J.B. Pritzker, is that a segue? That's a segue. Look, he's out spending water 2 to 1, $100 million of his own money. And I've got to tell you something. How many people in here have an AR or a modern sporting rifle? How many people in here have a magazine that's over 10 rounds? He has gone on record saying that we in Illinois should not own military-type weaponry like that. And let's put that aside. Tax increase on the wealthy. Sitting in this room, I think we're going to be the wealthy. And he's also told us that Oregon is the ideal example for mileage. Getting a GPS put in your car. And Gretchen and I talk about it all the time on the show. The last thing that is happening to John Q. Public that we want is the eroding of their civil rights. I don't want them to know where we're going. So here's what I'm telling you. Critics say that Rauner can't win. I've heard this over and over again. Rauner can't win. And I'm just going to tell you, I've heard two kinds of people. There are people who say, well, critics are telling me I can't win. I'm going to sit this one out. Really? You're going to sit this one out? And then the other group is people who are saying, vote your conscience. I'm going to vote my conscience. I'm going to vote for McCann. He's the only real conservative, which may be true. Or I'm going to vote for Jackson because he's the libertarian. I say to hell with your conscience. Vote with common sense. This is a two-candidate race. It's Pritzker and it's Rauner. And if you vote for anyone else, it's going to be a vote for Pritzker. If you don't vote, it's going to be a vote for Pritzker. So Rauner's been our backstop. Don't let the critics dictate whether or not you go and vote or how you vote. And I just want to stress this. Theodore Roosevelt hated critics, just hated them. And he stressed exactly what we stress, and that is John Q. Public together is what runs this company. That's who makes this country great. And it's the power of elected officials. And so I just want to read something that he gave in a speech back in the turn of the 20th century. It's not the critic who counts. It's not the man who points out where the strong man stumbled. It's not the man who points out where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by the dust and the sweat and the blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who actually strives to do the deeds. He knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, and he spends himself of a worthy cause, and who at best, in the end, knows the triumph of high achievement. And at worst, if he should fail, at least he fails while daring greatly, for his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who have known neither victory nor defeat. I say critics be damned, John Q. Public has the power. Go out and vote and bring someone with you. Thank you.
Before I bring the next speaker up, I wanted to thank my committee. It's Doug Mayhall, Nico Harry, Gretchen Fritz, and Dave Lombardo. We've been meeting since last February to put this together. So thank you very much, guys, lady. Not a girl. I gotta watch how I talk now because, you know, this political correct stuff, you gotta say the right stuff. No, it's true. Come on, I say stuff, I'm 68, I say stuff like I grew up with, you know, I use slangs and verbiage that nobody should use. Right, you know what, we got Mike Weisman, he's our sound guy, thank you very much, he was here last year. Then you walk up with my brain was screwed up. Not me, my brain. But now I want to thank Richard Pearson for all the stuff he does. He's our executive director of the ISRA. He's going to come up and say a few words.
I'm not a socialist. Okay, let's get that clear right now. I'm very proud to be the executive director of the ISRA, and I'm very proud to serve all of you people out there. The ISRA has won, we're counting up the awards. Where's Legro Herring at? I forgot how many we had, but we won 16 or so awards over the years for being an excellent state association, affiliates of the year, and that sort of thing. But the reason we win those awards is because we don't try to work for them. We try to work for the gun owners of this state. And that's why I'm here, that's why you're here, and that's why these fundraisers are very, very important. I told Pete Delaney earlier today that politics is like a steam locomotive, except you fill it with money, not coal. And that's really true. You have to fight all kinds of battles, and you have to fight the battles you're not expecting. So we have a great organization. It's made up of our members, our staff. To give an example, I talked to Margot earlier, and she said you needed a letter out to her district. We had the date filled. The date is filled tomorrow. I said we got to get a letter out from Margot. They said they'd be in early. Great staff, great staff. So anyway, thank you very much for coming tonight. And just leave your credit cards and your wallets at the door. We'll return whenever's left. Thank you.
Our final speaker is a friend of mine, probably about 12 years, something like that. Yeah, something like that. You know, before he ran for governor, we were friends. So we go back a long time. We've had arguments and non-arguments. I always win though because I'm smart. Gotta give him a shot. What the hell, you know? But Dan, everybody that listens to AM 560, you'll hear Dan in the morning with Amy. And you can tell who the right one is there. He learned it from me. But Dan does a good job. He's very conservative. He's an avid shooter. He misses the bullseyes, but he's on target, which I think counts. Am I right? See, he's smiling. But with that, I want to bring Dan Prout up, one of ours, person that stands up for the Second Amendment and all of our rights.
Good to be with you all this evening, and it's already been an eventful evening. First of all, I feel a bit underdressed, particularly that Balich has a suit where the pants and the coat match. I'm not used to that. Also, my friend Raquel, I had no idea, so now I've got a partner for that Heavy and Ivory karaoke I wanted to do. You'll be Paul, I'll be Steve. There you go. All right. And as much as we're thankful for our president, that would be President Trump, I'm thankful for my president, because I'm a member of the Aurora Sportsman's Club, Dave Lombardo. So it's good to have my president here as we honor my president and our president for defending our individual Second Amendment rights. I think I'm selling past the close in this room if I talk about the importance of the Second Amendment. So with 3 weeks to go before the midterm elections, let me talk a little bit about where my focus is, which is state legislative races in Illinois. Because with due respect to what Dave had to say about the governor's race, as we've seen, it doesn't so much matter as long as you have Chicago Democrats in control of the General Assembly with a supermajority in the Senate, and effectively it's been a supermajority in the House thanks to on again, off again surrender Republicans. So let me just state this unequivocally, because sometimes this gets lost in the high profile races where all the money is spent. We're spending quite a bit of money, I am through my PAC and other people are, on legislative races. This will never be a conservative reform state like Indiana or Wisconsin have been over the last decade. And the Republican Party will never be a majority party in this state unless we are the party of the suburbs. We have got to win in suburban Cook County and the collars. We have got to play in the city of Chicago, particularly when our issue agenda is ascendant, particularly as Chicago Democrats have driven this state and the city into the ground, the worst governed city in the country and the worst governed state in American history. And that's not hyperbole, that's a description that fits the data. We have got to be a party in the suburbs, and the only way we get there, the only way, is to do the one thing we haven't tried. We've tried everything else. We've tried socialism. We've tried corporatism. We've tried being the Republican Party at the leadership level, being junior partners to the Democrats, and protecting people's little fiefdoms at the expense of the greater good and the greater potential for the party. The one thing we haven't tried is the thing that works everywhere it is tried: conservative reform across the board, economic issues as well as moral issues. And if we're not going to be that party, then Godspeed, because you will continue to see people flee this state like it's on fire. You will continue to have the irony of the worse they make it, the smaller our margin of error, the better it gets for them, because people who are productive, people who believe in our constitutional rights, people who believe in the proportion of authority between the government and the citizen will continue to find a better quality of life at a lower cost elsewhere. Fact. It's remarkable to me that we even have trouble generating this consensus in the Republican Party, but that's a fact too. And as we've seen in the last 3 weeks, it turns out leadership really matters, doesn't it? If not for President Trump, and if not for all the fair criticisms of him notwithstanding, for Mitch McConnell, Brett Kavanaugh's not in the Supreme Court. That's a fact too. So we can have all the Margo McDermotts, and it's great that Margo's there. We can have all the Margo McDermotts as backbenchers in the General Assembly. Until we get people like Margo McDermott in leadership as leaders of the House Republican Caucus and leaders of the Senate Republican Caucus and statewide candidates and statewide office holders, we're not going to be a majority party, and we're not going to be a party that, frankly, is particularly distinguishable from the Democrats, and thus the deficits we face in places we shouldn't face them, thus losing races in suburban communities that we shouldn't be losing. Thank goodness, I will tell you, thank goodness, and I say this not being cavalier about what Brett Kavanaugh and his family went through, but thank goodness that that happened for our very narrow parochial political interests. Because I can tell you, without the Kavanaugh bump that's occurred over the last few weeks, we would be looking at Republican incumbents in suburban Cook and particularly the collar counties who hold seats in districts that have been Republican since I was alive. Frankly, districts that have been Republican since America was a forest, in deep, deep trouble with respect to their re-elections. deep trouble. And obviously, we still have fights in this state that are important at the federal level for maintaining control of the House. Peter Roskam, Randy Hultgren, Rodney Davis in Central Illinois, Mike Boss in Southern Illinois. The Democrats' map for their 23 seats they need includes picking up 3 in Illinois. So I know people basically centered in Will County, this larger area, but I know your circles of influence extend beyond where you live. So thinking about Roskam's district and Hultgren's district and Rodney Davis's district and Mike Boss' district, these are all Second Amendment defenders. These are all conservative Republicans. These are all people that we need to see reelected to do our part in this state to make sure Republicans maintain their majorities in D.C. And on the state side, legislative side, you've got Mark Batnick right here in Plainfield. I mean, with due respect to Margot, she's not gonna like me saying this. She's gonna be good, and I know Margot's gonna, sprint through the finish line. So we'll watch, but I'm not worried. But other races, the suburbs have changed, and we have to motivate people. We have to get people to reimagine what's possible in Illinois. Because if we're not driving the conversation, then they are. And what's their conversation? Make it a referendum on Trump. Make it a referendum on the NRA. We have a lot of good candidates in the suburbs. And we need to hold our incumbents, and we need to pick up seats. By the way, that's important too. I'm not like an optimist or a pessimist. I'm kind of the guy who says a half full glass is twice as big as it needs to be. I'm a realist. So thinking about our opportunities here, we can't walk and chew gum at the same time. We can defend incumbents and also be on offense for seats that we can win. And the way we do that is by offering a value proposition that neither party has offered for the better part of the last 2 decades. And I will tell you, again, I know the focus here that animates many of you is Second Amendment rights, and that's fair. But something else that unifies this state, and that should animate all of us, your home. Your home, the largest investment most people make in their life, that's being liquidated by state and local government in Illinois. Liquidated. We've done, story after story after story. We set up a database where people can get a free property tax report on their home in the entire Chicago metropolitan region. We've spent $1.5 million on SaveYourHomeNow.org campaign, telling people stories and encouraging people to tell their stories, to radiate it out, to change the conversation and make this the referendum issue. Because whether you are a middle-income family with a $250,000 home or you're Scottie Pippen trying to sell your place in Highland Park, you can't get out from underneath it unless you're willing to take an absolute bath. Because you can't get a return on investment in a state that features the highest property taxes in the nation. And this is something that is post-partisan. We're seeing it with the stories that are told, with the people that we're talking to, with the polling, and it's moving numbers. So obviously, I encourage you to focus your conversation within your circles of influence on whatever issues you want. But I would encourage you to make property taxes central. It is the issue that animates families in this state across every demographic. It is unifying. 3, 4, 5% of your home value in property taxes every year. And then the negative multiplier effect, how that destroys home equity. You don't own your home in Illinois, you rent it from the government to pay for somebody else's guaranteed 7-figure pension. That's what's happening. No question about it. It is not arguable. The facts are the facts are the facts. And most people you talk to are in this place right now, revolt or bolt. Either we revolt against the way things are and the people who've made them the way they are, or I begin to slowly or quickly execute my exit strategy. And obviously down here, being so close to Indiana, I'm sure you see that more pronounced than people in Chicago or places that are not adjacent to other states. Those border counties to other states are where you're really seeing the atrophy, where where you're really taking a flight. Of course you are. I can lower my cost of living by 40% by moving 15 minutes away. Pretty compelling. I get a return on investment, get 3 times the house. We have to make this a conversation about something that is wheelhouse for us, not always be in a defensive posture about issues they think they can motivate people emotionally on. And by the way, that's what they're doing. So in Park Ridge, for example, where Margot, to her credit, somebody that's trying to build the party, not just worried about her own seat, was up walking this past weekend. Marilyn Smolinski, the domestic abuse survivor. She started a company that outfits women to conceal carry. And she also does women's safety advocacy courses and training courses. And she's running against literally a Madigan cheerleader, like the guy who leads cheers for Mike Madigan in Springfield. Literally, not figuratively. And she's getting hammered because, she believes that women should be able to protect themselves. So it would be nice to see people in a dead heat race, in a pickup opportunity in northwest suburban Cook County, think kind of regionally about November 6th when it comes to state legislative races. If you give Mike Madigan, or if we allow Mike Madigan to have a supermajority again, and the Senate will stay a supermajority, at least for the next 2 years, depending on what happens at the statewide level, maybe somewhat immaterial. We've got to get the House back. We've got to get the suburbs back. And we've got to be a party that has a definitive value proposition. We're going to be the party that gives people their homes back. You give us power back, we give you your home value back. That's a pretty good deal. That's what people want. That's what people crave for. People are getting hurt in a way they haven't been hurt before, even in this robust 4% GDP growth economy, because you can't keep up with the property tax. It's theft. It's theft. We should be emotional about this issue. The way they're emotional, demagoguing gun rights or Trump, extremism, anti-woman, whatever. We should be emotional about people having their life's investments taken from them. This moves people. And this combined with the Kavanaugh bounce that we've gotten the last couple of weeks, which has redounded to state and local races, as I mentioned at the outset, gives us a chance to surprise some people on November 6th. And maybe convince people to have high expectations for Illinois and for the Illinois Republican Party again. Because I'll tell you where I'm at. I'm either going to have no expectations or I'm going to have high expectations. But I'm not going to settle for muddling along to oblivion like we've been doing for the last 20 years. I'm not going to do it. So we do it one way or the other. And if we're going to do zero expectations and just take what we're given, make the moral relativist choice, concede power to people who have proven themselves enemies inside our perimeter, then, I'll watch what happens in Illinois from Naples like everybody else. And honestly, let's start having adult conversations with adults in our social circles and stop with the sort of fortune cookie bromides reading off people's mail pieces. Your home is at stake. Your life's work is at stake. The respect that you're not being given for deciding to drop stakes in this state and make a home here, make a life here for your family, completely disrespected and dismissed. So either start putting serious people in office at the head of our party, or the serious people will continue to leave. And this will continue to be a failed state. This will continue to be a bad example. This will continue to be sort of a vacuum in the center of the Midwest. That's the choice on November 6th. And it starts at the state legislative level. And if we make these pickups, we can roll that into spring elections next year. I think, and I will, hopefully, get involved in aldermanic races in the city of Chicago, in the mayor's race. This idea that as a party, we just pretend that this little 3 million person hamlet next to the lake doesn't exist, it's idiocy. And we've been doing it for 40 years. That's no way to change the composition of the party, the energy of the party, the potential for success for the party. November 6th. Pick out races, local county board races, got it. Legislative races, 1, 2, maybe. It can be close like Batnick. He's in a good position because he's done a good job of independently branding himself, but they're pounding away at him. Madigan has spent north of $400,000 for his opponent. So take nothing for granted. And let's get our good incumbents, our conservative reform leaders like Batnick and Margot, Alicia, pick up opportunity against Natalie Manley, for goodness sakes. Let's get them across the finish line. Let's narrow the deficit between Republicans and Democrats in the House so that regardless of what happens at the statewide level, we have an opportunity in 20 and 22 to flip this thing around more quickly than people think can be done. The way, again, that Walker and Republicans did in 2010. And look at the change in Wisconsin under conservative reform leadership in the governor's mansion and in the Wisconsin state legislature in 8 short years. It's going to happen here. Should happen here. It's up to us to make it happen here. Thank you.
You inspired me. I also want to thank the Young Republicans. Matt Riley's over there for the Young Republicans doing the video. And for the first time in a long time, we have 14 Young Republicans, and I think we have 17 committeemen in Joliet now. And we used to have 0. So we have a chance here to the Young Republicans. And then the only thing that Dan left out is a quote that I use all the time that he actually wrote. When taxes increase, your property value decreases. It's a direct, you can't change that. And I can tell you where you can buy a house for $1.5 million if you want to pay the $30,000 property tax. There's a whole bunch of them. So please, get out and vote, because if JB wins, the first thing he's going to attack is our guns. He does not like the Second Amendment. They'll rewrite it somehow so we'll take our stuff away. It would be an embarrassment to all of us, so we got to make sure that we beat him, get rid of him. And then the other thing is to make sure we get state reps, like Dan said, that are pro-gun, county board reps that are pro-gun. So all this is real important. With that, I'm going to bring up Cal Mitchell again for the closing song.
This one's for you, Jeff. Okay. We go back a long way. He signed me up for the NRA. That's how we met years ago. I still have the hat. As the storm clouds scatter far across the sea, let us swear allegiance to a land that's free. Let us all be grateful for our land so fair, as we raise our voices in a solemn prayer. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans
Everybody join in with her.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the lights from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans wide with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
All the writing is pretty sure goes right to the ISRA. So if you check
Thank you.